Vicky, you ready? Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, all members are present. Approval of the agenda. We have one addition under 7H, approved benefit conversion to the municipal pool, Oaks Incorporated. Are there any other changes?
No.
Council? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with that change?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Heidi.
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the November 4th, 2015 regular meeting. Is there any changes, corrections, clarification that is needed? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 4th, 2015 regular meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion by Keith,
I'll second.
second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Now is our public open forum. This is where anyone that would like to speak to the council about anything other than what's on the agenda or the public hearing we have tonight. Is there a chance? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Seeing no one, our public open forum is now closed. Public hearings, we have one, refunding 2005 hospital bonds. We will recess the regular council meeting. We will now open the public hearing. We have a public hearing before us this evening regarding the refunding of 2005 C hospital bonds. It is our intention that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. If you wish to speak, please sign in on the sign-up sheet at the back of the room. The procedure is as follows. Presentation by staff, followed by questions of staff. Then we will have public input. Raise your hand when recognized by the mayor, approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. State your comments and position. No one will be allowed to speak a second time until everyone has had a chance to be heard. First, we will hear questions for clarification. Secondly, public in favor of the proposal. And third, public speaking against the proposal. After everyone who wishes to speak has had the opportunity to be heard, the hearing will be closed. After closure of the public hearing, the council will deliberate and take action as appropriate. Members of the audience do not participate in the council's discussion unless a majority of the council concedes to hear additional information or questions. The hearing is now in session. Is that George or Vicky?
George.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. George Eilertson from Northland Securities. And the public hearing is required for this kind of bond issue. It's due to the relationship between the city and a nonprofit entity. So this certainly is not the norm when you do other types of city projects, utility or street projects. There wouldn't necessarily be the need for a public hearing. So that's just for clarification why you need one for the potential refunding bonds. Mayor, if you'd like, I can briefly walk through the highlights of the sale of bonds, and that's that sale report is in front of you on your council table. And as part of this sale, I worked with your city administrator on the reassignment of the city's bond rating. Standard & Poor's assigned a AA- to the city, and Vicky is getting to be a pro at this. This is the third rating call in a short period of time, so a lot of work for her, and the results are all favorable. The AA- is a very strong credit. So that's one of the key points of being able to bring bonds to the market at a very favorable interest rate. And so if I could direct you to the first page, or it's actually page 2 at the bottom right, this is a one-page overview of the refunding. And the 2005 C bonds were 9.5 million. The new bonds are sized at 8,845,000. They mature in 2033. The remaining average interest rate on the 2005 bonds is roughly 4.5%. What you're doing is reducing that interest rate down to approximately 2.63%. That interest rate reduction will save approximately $1.73 million over the remaining term of the bonds, which is a little bit under $100,000 in debt service reduction per year. So very strong refunding, very strong savings. I'm happy to present that to you, and certainly can address any questions if you have any.
Questions, comments? The interest rate changed a little bit since the last time we talked. So it affected the bond sales?
Up just a little bit. There was the first Friday of every month, there's the jobs report. And for November, the jobs report was very positive. And positive news leads to oftentimes higher interest rates, and that's what happened in the municipal bond market. We did go up a little bit, and I'll say though, to the sale results today, very strong for a AA- credit, so we lost maybe a little bit of savings comparing to when I was here last mid-October until today. Interest rates are up a little bit less than 1/4%. But again, it's netting that $1.7 million savings. But you're right, Mayor. A little bit higher interest rates, a little bit less savings than we looked at in October, but still very strong results.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Okay. Thank you. We'll then open it up to the public. Is there anyone here that would like to ask any questions on clarification as far as what the process is? Is there anyone here that would like to have questions for clarification? Is there anyone here that would like any questions answered for clarification? Seeing no one. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against the proposal? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against the proposal? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against the proposal? Seeing no one. Does the council have any questions? Anything else? Okay, we will close the public hearing. We will reconvene the regular council meeting. Reports and presentations. Police Department. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for month of October 2015. Some of the numbers we had 7 alarm calls. We did 2 canine assists for other agencies. We had 16 assists for persons. We had 18 assists for other agencies. We had 8 work in the bar crowd activity. We had 5 controlled substance arrests. We had 5 disorderly conduct arrests, 8 dog complaints. We had 12 driving with a revoked or suspended license citations, 9 driving complaints, 9 drug paraphernalia arrests. We had 9 small amount of marijuana arrests. We had 10 gas no pays, 10 juvenile problems, 21 matter of information calls, 19 medicals, 8 driving with no Minnesota license citations, 6 accidents, 15 school patrol. Started listing that as when we greet the kids in the morning at the school, and we started documenting that a little bit. So let's see, we had 4 suicide threats, 28 suspicious calls, 12 thefts. We gave out 240 verbal warnings. We had 7 welfare checks. We had a total activity amount of 660. So we compare that to September, we were up on calls 73, down on warnings by 33, for total we're up 40. And from the last year comparisons, we were up 85 calls from last year, up 36 warnings from last year, and 121 altogether were up. Also, I would like to, do you have any questions about the numbers first?
Nope.
I would like to point out, you've got driving after revocation, 8 of them, and 4 driving after suspension. That's 12 people that shouldn't have been on the road in the first place.
Correct, yeah, there's a lot of them, then plus the 9 of them or whatever I had
Yeah.
with no Minnesota license. So,
That's terrible.
yeah, there's quite a few out there that are.
I can't believe people still do that.
Yep. The other topic I'd like to bring up, it was discussed at the budget meeting. I would like to move on with the police sergeant, and for the next meeting, if it's favorable by you folks, I would like to have a job description posted for the sergeant to have you folks look at, and then give you a little timeline on what I'd be looking at to present that to our employees on our department to move on.
Okay.
To fill that position.
How does the council feel that he brings a job description for the next meeting?
Great
For us
idea.
to look at.
Great.
Okay.
I got one question, Brian, back on the numbers.
Yep.
ATV operate on roadway. You know, that's only one, but I know there's more than just one ATV that's running around city streets. What are the
We have,
guidelines or?
basically we have no ordinances. You have to abide by the ATV rules or DNR rules towards ATVs, which basically in town you can't cross or go on any highways, so 71. And
71.
so basically if you're making direct crossings of those places, then you still have to have a license, and they should have lights and required, the required lights. So.
In your opinion, is that something that we should be looking at, is having an ordinance for that type of thing?
You know, I think right now we're okay. I mean, I haven't seen anybody abusing it. You know, the people that I've seen on them are driving them real safe, and I haven't seen any negligence with them. I think if we start having a lot of issues, then we need to address it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's fine. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission report, Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you have a copy of the agenda from our Tuesday, November 10th Planning Commission meeting. We had a fairly short meeting. There were no public hearings or action items. We are visiting, still working on the registering business program. I think that'll be before you. Is that on the? Yeah, it's on the City Council agenda. And we're still looking at the fee schedule for, that's on the fee schedule. It's a couple changes there to update that. And we are still working on the impervious surface, add some definitions and maybe changing that. And then also in your packet, you have a copy of the October building permit report, and then the third quarter building permits issued. At the end of October, we did about $9.1 million worth of building value within the city limits.
Questions?
What was the discussion on impervious surfaces?
We are looking at, one of the questions was if boardwalks and decks are the same thing as considered as impervious surface. We also want to look at maybe increasing the percentage allowed for impervious surface in residential properties, commercial, industrial areas. So we're looking at some other communities in our area, and then up the same size, 4,000 population, to see what they're doing.
Okay. Any more talk of rain garden credits or drainage credits?
Well, we've been working with some of the, especially residential property owners, if they're within a very small percentage of that, like 30% lot coverage, and if they redirect the downspouts to the rear of their property and are willing to put in a rain garden or some kind of infiltration to capture some of that, if they want to put up like a smaller garden shed, we've been working with them, to be able to do that.
Okay.
So, but we're just getting a lot of people, they want to add on, they want to make a bigger garage, add a shed, and they're already at that 30% lot coverage. So we just want to see what other communities are doing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I've got one, Sarah. On the fee schedule for the variance and multiple variances,
Yes,
looking at the packet that I received for that, it seemed like it was more directed toward commercial.
correct. The,
Wouldn't it make sense to put that straight across the board? Because a lot of our homeowners, in fact, we just did one not that long ago when they moved that house in, we had 3 variances for the same lot.
correct.
I'm wondering if we shouldn't be looking at that also.
We had that discussion at the Planning Commission, and it was, I felt like the consent of the Planning Commission was, residential property owners, they're a much smaller scale of what they're working on or what they're, the variance they're asking for. And then the larger commercial projects, usually they're going to add even more stormwater or more, usually it's the impervious lot coverage and the setbacks are the main ones they ask for.
Okay.
And at least the Planning Commission felt that, not to, because residential ones are usually such a small dollar amount project, and then to have them pay another $75 for each additional, and it's for the type of variance. So it'd be $150 for a setback variance, whether it's for 1 or 2 or 3 from the setback, and then it'd be an additional $75 for the impervious. And then if you have another variance, then it's another $75.
Okay.
So,
I was just wondering whether or not there was discussion on it, because it seemed, according to the packet, it was basically one-sided. So I
Right.
didn't know if there was any discussion
And
for the other.
and the city council has final approval.
Right,
True. Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Airport board report?
Okay, the airport board met in regular session on Thursday, November 12th. They had 4 items on their agenda, were the main items of discussion, all 4 which are recommendations to council for action tonight. One will be to recommend a change to the pump installation. 1, recommend an amendment to the grant agreement for that pump installation. They're recommending approval of the capital improvement plan and approval of the work order for Bolton Mank to begin the next project. So those 4 items we'll talk about in detail when we get to them, unless you have any specific questions for me right now.
Questions? No. Seeing none? Thank you. We will then move on to our action items. 7A, approve resolution 2015-82, refunding 2005C hospital bonds.
Right, we have the 2015-82, that is the resolution that's in your packet, and then it has been amended with the numbers based on the bond sale today. So there will be some numbers that are amended in there for the total bond sale size, and also all the annual payments are also included in the new resolution. Otherwise, everything is as George said, and we're asking for resolution 2015-82, providing for the issue and sale of the Series 2015C bonds.
Comments? Questions?
I think it's going to save us an awful lot of money.
Basically, the refunding, we had the public hearing, so we covered that point. The refunding is saving 1.7 some million dollars. The bond payments are being paid by Centricare, right?
Correct. The bond payment, the lease from Centricare for the hospital is tied to the bond payment principal and interest for the year. So although the city is saving the money, that savings is passed on to Centricare because they're making the payment. So this just is very good news for Centricare, good news for us too, because it makes our overall debt more attractive, I guess you could say. But in the end, it ultimately is saving Centricare those dollars, so.
And that's one of the things over time that people forget about. You know, they start looking at us refinancing that size bond, not realizing the payments are being made by someone else and not out of their pocket. That's the reason why I brought that up. So, is there any other comments or questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2015-82, providing for the sale of 2005C hospital refunding bonds?
So moved.
We have a motion by Heidi. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7B, approve ordinance 762, establishing a business registration system.
This is the ordinance that Sarah referred to in her staff report. The Planning Commission is recommending that the City Council amend the city code to require all new businesses register with the city. There would be a one-time fee of $25 to process the registration. Existing businesses are grandfathered in. I did put in your packet a copy of what the application would look like, a one-page form. Business registration certificate they would be provided, and then also the ordinance that the Planning Commission has been working on. Part of the reasoning for going through this and starting this is sometimes we'll have a business come to town, they locate, they start operating, they're in a zoning district that it's not appropriate, we start getting complaints, and this kind of gives us the chance to review what they're planning to do in that area. So if it is something that's not allowed in that area, we know sooner rather than later and can convey that to the people before they've invested a lot of money and resources into developing a business that doesn't fit. And it's just a way for us to be able to help them, I guess, make sure they know what they need to do, and it makes it for an easier fit in the community. So the Planning Commission felt that it would be good to start this, and we're not looking to go back to old businesses that are already here and getting them registered and anything like that. It's just a way for us to be able to have communication with these new people if they realize you have to register with the city.
Okay. Questions?
I had, just one question was posed to me. What are the repercussions if a business does not register? What if they're, located out of their house or doing business without our knowledge? How do we find out, and what do we do about it?
Sometimes, usually we'll find out based on a complaint. And then it would be the same as any other complaint that we would have to investigate. Sarah, did they talk about compliance?
I don't have the exact page, but I thought in-home businesses were exempt. There was a couple things that were exempt, and one was like if you had a construction business, for example, but your actual office was located outside the city limits, you didn't have to register to do construction in town. And the other one I thought was, this chapter is not intended to apply to home-based or transitory businesses. But if we do get complaints about a home-based business, we still have to, verify it.
Do we have the power to shut them down if they don't?
If they are not, if they're doing a business that's not within the zoning ordinance, yes, we have the right to, make them cease and desist.
And if a new business doesn't fill out this application form, what are
Well, there's a fine.
our steps? Okay.
Yeah, there's that penalty, I think is at 10.99 is the penalty. But usually it's, if they don't know about it, I will at least give them, like the 2 weeks to get it in.
It would be the same as an administrative fine for other
Okay.
parts of our code.
Okay.
So it's just a penalty for noncompliance, and that refers back to the administrative part of our code, which she said is section 10.99.
Okay.
And then it's usually, in the city council actually adopts that dollar amount. And if it's with the other 10.99 ones, it's like $100 fine. And that can be a daily fine if it got to that, but usually we'll send it out. If they come in and comply within a certain day, it can be waived. We've got certain remedies for that. So we try to work with people. We don't want to be punitive. It's just we're trying to get the information, I guess is what it is.
Basically, any business, new business after the adoption of this ordinance is when,
They're recommending that it go into effect January 1st of 2016. And so if a new business comes to town in January of 2016, then they would come in and fill out this information and pay the $25 registration fee.
so we can review it and make sure they're in the right area for what they want to do.
Correct.
Okay. Enforcement. You know, it's an ordinance, and I know it's gray, because if they don't come in, and 2 years after the fact, someone finally complains, is it worth the paper it's wrote on? Are we actually gonna be out there checking, or are we just gonna sit back and wait until somebody complains?
I guess the Planning Commission, I think they felt that this was something that was necessary. I don't know if Diane, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, actually, this was 100% supported by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
You need a handle on the businesses coming into town and what they're doing.
I understand that part, but I mean, if someone does come in and start a business up, and we don't find out for 6-8 months after the fact, yeah, we can hand them an administrative fine, but is that going to change anything?
And how are they to be made aware that they need this?
They would be sent a letter
But if
right
we're
away
not,
that they're not in compliance, and they would be notified of a fine.
I'm just thinking about the new businesses wanting to build a business but not aware of this registration fee. If we don't know about them, how are they to know about this? And then, to catch them months, years later, and they say, well, I never knew about it.
I think the Chamber of Commerce is going to work
Okay.
with our administrator.
Sarah, can you come up to the mic? That way
Yep.
everybody in the public can.
Yes, I did speak with Andrea over at the Chamber, and I wanted to work with her on this, business registration, because I didn't want to duplicate, their efforts. But I also, and I wanted to keep it simple. It's a one-time fee. And a lot of people, at least 90% of people either call or stop in here at City Hall and ask, do I need a business license, or do I need to register? And if they don't ask us, they usually ask, someone at the Chamber. So we get most of them that way, but there's just a few every once in a while that, if someone buys a lot, in whatever part of town and they start opening a business, unless they get a remodeling permit or some kind of construction permit or a sign permit, I have no way of knowing, unless I'm out there driving around and happen to see it, or someone, says, hey, I saw someone working on this, building over there, and we kind of go check it out. So, the town isn't that big. We usually kind of see stuff going on, or people let us know that, something is going on. But working with the chamber will be helpful too.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Is this must be a system that's been adopted by other cities,
Yes.
I would assume?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of followed a model ordinance from other cities.
Yeah.
I know when I moved here from Texas, we had the same thing, and that was a town smaller than this. You had to come in and register. Even if a current business changed hands, you had to come in and register that.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 762, establishing a business registration program?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane. Second?
I'll second that.
Second by Keith. Any other questions or comments? Call a question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve Resolution 2015-83, adjusting accounts receivable.
Each year, the city council writes uncollectible accounts out of the accounting system. This includes those deemed uncollectible and written off, those that were sent to collections, and those that were assessed to taxes. You do have a list there of several that were mostly fire and rescue calls that are recommended to be sent to collections or revenue recapture. You have some that are removals. A lot of those are like late fees, that the late fee gets billed, but the payment comes in the meantime, and there's always some residual late fees to get rid of. And then we have the 4 at the bottom that we had certified to taxes at a previous meeting, so now we have to take action to take them out of the accounting system. The total is those sent to collections of $1,528.50, those to be removed of $2,623, and those certified to taxes of $21,922.60, for a total of $26,051.33. So the action that I'm requesting is to approve that resolution for the annual write-offs of accounts receivable.
Questions? Comments? Concerns? This is usually, like it says, annual write-off. How good are we usually when we send it to collections on collecting it?
They're pushing a year usually, by the time they get that far.
Okay. And then we don't get the full amount because of the...
After it goes to collections, we get about 50%.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2015-83, adjusting accounts receivable by sending $1,528.50 to collections, removing $2,600.23 from billing, and certifying $21,922.60 to taxes?
So moved.
We have a motion by Heidi.
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve grant amendment and upgrade airport fueling system.
This is a change order to the existing fueling system upgrade that we've been working on. In order to get a higher gallons per minute for the fueling system, the airport board is recommending the pump be upgraded to the next larger size pump. The cost of the upgrade is $6,551. MnDOT Aeronautics has agreed to fund 60% of that through an amendment to the existing grant agreement, and those funds would be reimbursed to us next year. This would leave the city with a net cost of the upgrade of $2,620. We've had some issues with the pump upgrade to try to achieve the gallons per minute. They look at, what kind of a tank you have, what kind of hose, what kind of plumbing, and we're not achieving the gallons per minute that we previously had with the old pump. So in order to achieve that, the recommending of the board is to upgrade to the next pump, which actually is said it's a 36 gallon per minute, but of course we won't get 36 because of all these factors. We'll reduce it down. We're hoping to get 25 gallons per minute out of it. And in going over it with our consultant and with Zoll, who is the installer, and Wayne Pump, who manufactures the pump, they feel that the best option for us is to move forward with the upgrade. And because MnDOT Aeronautics is agreeing to fund 60% of that cost through a grant amendment, the board feels that it's appropriate to move forward and do that. So what they're asking tonight is to approve the upgrade of the pump and the amendment to the grant agreement with MnDOT. And I do have 2 members, actually 3 members of the airport, 4 members of the airport board here. If anybody has any questions for them directly, 2 of which are pilots, so.
Questions?
Where is the city share of the cost coming from?
It is coming out of the airport fund. So the airport fund is funded, it has a small portion of taxes, it is rents from hangars, it's fuel sales, and then also we do have a maintenance and operations agreement with MnDOT Aeronautics where we are refunded some dollars, of which this year they actually refunded additional dollars to us. So that was where we were looking that those funds would come from, was that additional that we're receiving from MnDOT.
Are you saying that of the $2,600 here, MnDOT is going to refund us some of that as well?
No, what I was saying was we usually would get $13,184. That was the magic number of reimbursement of our costs of running the airport every year. And this year, MnDOT had come into some extra funds and reimbursed us $19,000. So we had a little bump in our reimbursement that we hadn't expected, and so we figured that those dollars could be put towards this $2,600.
All right.
Any other questions? Personally, I think it only makes sense to upgrade the pump, considering we're looking at a whole lot of other improvements and expansion out there, so this is just one little thing that's...
You don't want to get known as the airport with the slow pump.
We probably already are, you never know.
Not a lot of windbreak out there if you're fueling in the
Right.
winter.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the upgrade of pump and amendment to grant agreement with MnDOT Aeronautics?
So
Will
moved.
could we explore the option? I know we talked about this at the meeting. Can we explore the option of a guarantee that we reach our gallon per minute with this installation?
When we put the proposal out to ZAL, we are expecting a 25 gallon per minute minimum.
Okay.
And so that's what their goal is to shoot for.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've got a motion from Dave. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Keith. Everyone understands the motion? Okay. Any other comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7E, approve capital improvement plan, airport.
Every year, the airport board needs to submit an updated capital improvement plan that gets sent into MnDOT Aeronautics for approval. And this is derived from the airport board and our meetings with MnDOT Aeronautics and our meetings with FAA. So a lot of work goes into the timing of where these projects can go. Our next project is our big project that we've talked about for many years, and that is the runway rehabilitation. And along with the runway rehabilitation, it would be widened from 60 feet to 75 feet, and it would also have new lights. So you have all the lights that go along the sides and at the ends, electrical vault, all of those things kind of have to happen at the same time. So they are proposing a project cost total for next year, and then we have our federal dollars that were allocated $150,000 a year. We can accumulate 4 years with of $600,000. And then the FAA has agreed to provide us with what they call discretionary funding, and it's funding an additional separate grant they would give us so that we do not have to pay them back. We do have to operate the airport for 20 years, but we don't have to pay them back. That's that $1.8 million that you see there. So it's a good bonus for the city. The FAA sees it as an important project that they want us to move forward, and that is why they've allocated us those dollars. Then we have the state funding portion, which is MnDOT Aeronautics, and then we have the local funding. The local funding is what the city would pay for. So when you look at this total 2016 project, and these numbers I think are estimated high, they will come in lower than this. So it was a little shock. But if you look at a total project of $3 million and the city's share is $230,000, you know, that's, when you look at that, one of the reasons we're moving forward at it sooner rather than later is because in this next fiscal year, MnDOT is going to pay an extra 5%. So we would go, our share goes from 10% of the project to 5% of the project. So that is why we are proposing to move forward with it sooner rather than later to do those cost savings. Now, where's our local share going to come from? You know, the airport accumulates so many dollars every year that we put toward our local share, and you've done that for many years. This is more money than we generally would do. So the airport board would be looking to the city council for an advance of funds, kind of similar like we did for the ambulance garage when they purchased the building. So, or the city council could allocate undesignated funds, and those things that we would have to work forward. We're not asking for approval of the project right now, we're just asking approval to submit this CIP to MnDOT. So that is the next year project, and then as you go down the project, you see there's some years that there are no projects. So we get this big one done, and we have to redo the zoning ordinance and do some taxiway work and stuff, and then our airport is in actually pretty good shape at that point. You know, we've been doing a lot of catch-up at the airport for maintenance that hasn't been done and improvements that need to be taken care of. But once we get through this project, we'll be actually sitting really well out there. And so the airport board is requesting that we allow the CIP to be submitted, and then it'll come back to us, a grant agreement later on, where there would be a grant agreement to move forward with the project. So, does anybody have any questions about that? It's a lot of information to throw these numbers at you. There'll be future approvals that you will have to do as we move forward.
Questions? Concerns? How secure is the federal and the state funding?
I was just going to ask the same.
We know how some government works. You know, they can say that it's there, but when we get into this, I want to know it's there.
Yeah.
Right, and by time we get into it, you know, we wouldn't do the project until we knew we had the funding.
Okay.
The thing is that, you know, when we say this is a 2016 project, the discretionary part of the funding always comes late in the year, August, maybe September. So realistically, the actual in-the-ground work probably won't happen till the spring of 17. But the way the fiscal year, the state, the federal, and the local all have different fiscal years, so you have to remember what year you're in. And, but the discretionary dollars is what you're talking about, I'm sure, when you look at that dollar amount. So that's a number that won't be finally confirmed until probably August of next year, or released, I should say, till August of next year. So we can do bidding, we can do all of that, but we would not have anything go in the ground until those were confirmed at that time. But once they get into a project like this, I mean, they're the ones that suggested a lot of this to us. This wasn't us going to them. This was them coming to us on when we were going to our CIP meetings. So our airport consultant feels very confident the numbers are secure, and our FAA consultant, and our MnDOT aeronautics person. I mean, everybody is in the same room having this conversation. But no, we won't be digging in the ground until we know we have the money.
Okay.
We probably run a risk of losing that funding too if we don't do some of this, I would assume.
Our $150,000 every year, you know, it'll roll off the backside if you don't use it, or if you don't loan it to somebody else. If you recall, we loaned some to the city of Owatonna. If you look in the 2017 or 18 year, that money rolls back to us. But if we didn't do a project, we'd be looking for somebody for $150,000 to take it as it falls off the backside.
Any other questions? I just got one comment. I know that, you know, there's a lot of people wonder why the city's got an airport, and they go, what are we doing with that out there? But I think if they talk to a lot of businesses in the area, that airport's getting a lot more use than what they think it is, and it's benefiting the community a lot. So, in fact, you know, I know personally that it brings people in to be in Sauk City.
You know, and a lot of people, you know, you look at the federal share, and people are thinking my federal taxes, the federal deficit. This isn't federal tax dollars. This is dollars through aviation. It's so much for a ticket sale, and it's the dollars that the FAA has that they collect, and then they put it back into the airports. So it kind of is collected and goes back into airports. It's not federal tax dollars, because I've been posed that question as well.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
I guess I'd just like to echo your sentiment, Warren. You know, when I first got on the airport board several years ago, I didn't know hardly anything about the airport. I still don't know anything about flying. But the airport, it's, you know, I think the city can be proud of its airport and the board members that do it, because it's a very finely tuned machine. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to approve submittal of a 5-year capital improvement plan.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane,
I'll second.
second by Heidi. Any other comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve work order, Bolton Mank.
This work order kind of ties to the project that we're going to start. It's work order number 5, and this is for design and bid administration for that larger project that we talked about. When we submit to the FAA, we have to submit an executed work order from our consultant outlining what they're going to be doing. So we have to approve the work order with Bolton Mink, and then that kind of sits there while it goes through the process, and then they have to adhere to those costs that they put forward in there. So although I'm looking like I'm going into design and I'm going into it, this agreement needs to go to the FAA for approval, but we have to approve it first. So that's what I'm trying not to make it look like we have the cart ahead of the horse here, but that's the way that the process goes. So what this is a work order for the runway reconstruct and the widening, and it's an amendment to our master agreement with Bolton Mink. They are our airport consultant, and it has a total authorized fee of $265,000, and that is all the way through design, all the way through bid administration, through completion of that project, if we move forward with it.
Questions? Comments? None. Do I have a motion to approve work order number 5 for runway 14/32 reconstruction and widening?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave,
I'll second.
second by Heidi. Any other comments, concerns? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7G, approve work order, racetrack Phase 1.
At the October 21st meeting, the City Council approved using SEH for grant writing for the proposed demolition and redevelopment of the racetrack. And in preparation of that grant application for the environmental portion, which was Phase 1 and possibly Phase 2, and that's the environmental research of what's ever been out there, the deed representatives at the state came back and they said, we recommend that the city first complete Phase 1, and then if you need Phase 2, include the Phase 1 costs and the Phase 2 cost in the same application, because they said it's just too hard to predict what Phase 2 might cost before you get the first part of it done. So it's kind of a little bit different than what we originally had looked at. We had looked at applying for the grant and then doing Phase 1 and then doing Phase 2. And deed is saying do Phase 1 and apply for the grant retroactively, which they've verbally told us, yes, they will fund it, but they want to do one grant for Phase 1 and 2 instead of 2 separate grants. So what we're looking to go forward here is then to have them go ahead with the Phase 1, which is $4,500, with the anticipation of get reimbursed that. And I know that, you know, there's always a risk there that deed will deny the grant. However, they've already verbally said, you know, you have a good chance of getting Phase 1, but they can't tell you yes until you actually apply for it. So it is, you know, you do have the risk there. The EDA does have that risk there of $4,500 of conducting this EA. However, we have to do it before we move forward with development of the property. So whether we do it and have the chance of getting a reimbursement or we just do it, either way, it has to be done. So I kind of explained that a little bit to Warren ahead of time. I don't know if anybody has any additional questions, but what this is going to do is all the book review of the property, what's ever been there, you know, what kind of businesses were on it. Does anybody know if there was cars buried there? Does anybody know if there was ever any other kind of business located on it? And so they will do that review and report, and then based on the results, it will decide if they need to even do a Phase 2, which is to go in and start doing soil borings and those kinds of things. So we're looking forward just to go with Phase 1 and get it done, and we'll apply for the grant to get reimbursed for it. If we don't do Phase 2, we go straight to demolition grant and get it included in that one. So we'll either include it in the second part of the environmental or in the demolition.
Comments? Questions? Actually, you know, there is a little bit of a risk. You're looking at $4,500. But when the council chose to purchase the property, I think it was a lot larger risk than this $4,500 is. You know, we bought that property on the risk that we're going to develop it, and to be scared of this risk is kind of contradictory. So with that, is there anyone else that has any comments or questions? Do I have a motion to approve agreement with SEH SEH for Phase 1 for racetrack Phase 1.
I'll second.
Motion by Keith, second by Diane. Any other comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7H, approved benefit conversion to the municipal pool.
This was the addition that you were emailed. What this is a life insurance. We currently, and this is all employee paid. Life insurance is supplemental life and short-term disability insurance. And the employees are allowed as a group to purchase life insurance, and because we all belong to the group. We're currently with US Able, which used to be MII Life, which was connected with Blue Cross. And now US Able is breaking away from Blue Cross, and they're going to be out of Little Rock, Arkansas. And we won't have an agent, a local agent here, and their fees are going up. So all of this made us start looking around. And we came up with the municipal pool, which you can see the League of Minnesota Cities and many other city counties in the state utilize them. And they gave us a proposal which would save the employees money on what we could purchase. And I did run this past all of the department heads, and everybody feels like it would be a good option for the employees to convert over to this. Now, what we would have is we'd end up having a group meeting, and if one person doesn't want to convert, we have to come all or nothing. So if somebody doesn't want to, then we'll have to stay with where we are. If everybody wants to go, we'll all come over as a group and be able to purchase this life insurance. He did put 2 quotes together. He put one option where the city could provide the first $10,000 of life insurance to the full-time employees for $1.70 for $10,000, or we would just start with the employees purchasing from zero. Cities are 50-50 on that one. Some of them do, some of them don't. We currently don't have it right now. That's, as an employee, I'd say let's do it. As an employer, I say that's more of a negotiating thing when you come down to negotiating benefits. So, that's certainly something you can consider there. But we are looking right now just for an approval to go to Oaks and have them come in and do a presentation to the staff, and then if the staff is willing to convert over to the municipal pool.
Questions? Comments?
So we're not specifying option 1 or 2 at this time. This is just informational right now.
This is just allowing us to move forward
Okay.
on visiting with them.
Does this have anything to do with union contracts?
No, this does not change it. The union contract just says the city will provide the option to purchase group life. It doesn't specify what group life.
Okay.
We have a local agent for,
We do have an agent for this, yes. He would, he's from the cities that does the municipal pool.
from the same
Yeah.
state anyway.
Right.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve agreement with Oaks Incorporated to provide benefits through the municipal pool?
So moved.
Motion by Heidi, second?
Second.
Second by Diane. Any other questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business, which brings us to the consent agenda. We have the schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $50,725.05, paid claims of $25,353.11, for a total of $76,078.16. And October checks registering of $415,996.60. Questions on the consented calendar? Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion by Dave. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second by Heidi. Any other questions, comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. We have no informational items. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
We
adjourn.
have a motion by Dave. Second?
I'll second that.
Second by Keith. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.